as I said, thank you for joining us. I'm Claire Kirkpatrick and I'm the Club Development Manager at Motorsport UK. This evening we have John Clavely of Sapphire Solutions to talk to you about the administration website of TimingAppLive and how you set up your events. So we also have Steve Johnson, Chair of the Auto Test Committee, to share his experience of using the system with his clubs and events. Also, to help answer some of your questions, from Motorsport UK, we have Simon Fowler, the Competitions and Clubs Manager, and Sue Sanders, Director of Learning and Development. So before we get started, just our normal housekeeping. I'm sure you know the rules now. So please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to ask questions. Feel free to do this as we go through the session, and we will do our very best to answer as many questions as possible. The session is being recorded and will be available for you to watch back in a week or so on our website and on our YouTube channel. Tomorrow you will receive an automated email through our Zoom account with a link to a survey, as we really appreciate your feedback and ideas and topics for future webinars. This survey may also pop up when we finish this webinar, so you can choose to either complete it tonight or wait till you receive the email tomorrow. Thank you. I think now it's time to hand over to Steve and John. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that, Claire. I'll just say a little bit about my experience of using this management system. I think this event management tool for grassroots motorsport is a very powerful tool. For those of us who's been around running motorsport events, going through everything that is entailing with the entry management, the management of marshals, the management of the competitors, sending it out. I know once a day we used to stuff it all in envelopes, now we can email, but this system brings it all together. And the beauty of it being on the cloud, which I've realized that you can have different members of your committees accessing the same data in different parts. So it's a very, very powerful event management tool to run the event. And then we've been dovetailed into the timing app that works for auto tests and auto solos. It's a result system in one. So I think it's absolutely great. I've used it now since July last year. We started playing with it. I was aware of it. I think John and myself discussed it probably about 3 years ago at the NEC. And in the last 2 months, I've run 2 events with it, with the clubs in the Northwest, and with another event in 4 weeks' time. And the beauty of it is the events went live on Sunday night at 8 o'clock, and with 51 places taken out of 52 in 3 days of the events being live. And it's been great to watch that happen. So that's what I think of it. It's not perfect. There have been 1 or 2 glitches along the path, but John has amended the systems and it's still a lot of work in progress, but it's probably 99% right as far as I can see. So I'll hand you over to John Cavey, who's the mastermind behind all this.
Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated, that introduction, and thank you, Claire, for the previous introduction. Yes, as many of you know, that I got involved with motorsports, and being an app developer and passionate about technology, decided to bring my skills into developing a system that I could use myself initially, and then expanded to other clubs using it, and just fed off the ideas of and information that was provided to me, and hopefully I've got something that's fits quite a lot of our usual events: auto test, auto solo, targas, etc. So I'm going to share my screen now and show you how to set up an event. So this is the demonstration account that I'm showing at the moment. You can sign up for an account yourself for your own club. There'll be details in that in the email following after this. Okay, so this is the login screen. I'm simply going to log in with my admin password and set up an account. So you can have as many logins on your account as you like. The accounts can be added simply here in information and admin users, and I've got one set up already at the moment. All the entry systems work the same sort of way, where you've got add new at the top left here to add a new record. You've got edit to edit existing records, and you've got delete to delete an existing record. So for example, if I add new, I could add a new user here.
Whilst we're talking admin users here, John, to just explain it, I think a lot of people are saying, what's all this mean? I look at it, when you have an event team working on an event, you'll have an entry secretary, the secretary of the event, maybe an event treasurer, and the clerk of the course. Those are the main people to run the grassroots event. And if all those people are admin users, every one of those people can get real-time updates of what's happening and amend things, and they can do it on their own smartphones. They don't have to go to a computer to do it. So those are the sort of people that would be the admin user for an event or a motor club normally. Yeah.
It doesn't work quite so well on a smart screen if you've only got a small resolution, but it is possible. It's better off if you've got an iPad or a tablet that you can access this on at an event. So you simply put in the user, put in a new password, whatever that may be, and hit create to create a record. Or if you don't want to create it, hit cancel. That's our chat line now. So that's adding a new user. I'll now go to setting up an event. So the first thing I do in this order is go to events. There's a couple of test events already in there, demonstration events. And if I was to create a new one, I'd simply hit add new. But for this demonstration, I'll hit edit and show you the settings that are already in there. So you can call it any name you like. It will appear on the list of events with the date in date order, so anyone can have a look at the results and things afterwards. You've got three statuses. You've got live event, which is what it defaults to. But if you just want to place a place marker in for a future event, you can set it up as a planned event. Once you're finished an event and the revisional results are final, you can change it to a finalized event, and that will change the heading in the live results or the exported results to finalized.
On that topic, John, am I right in thinking you're hopefully going to do a date stamp and a timestamp on that at some point in the future?
I am, yes, that is true.
Because that will then be the thing that will confirm it as per the Blue Book, that you've got to say to people when the events have gone, when the results have gone final. So that will be that the event organizer will go into it and change that status, and that then date stamps it as a time and date to make it final, so it makes it compliant with the Blue Book.
Yes, it will do that in the future, yes. But presently it doesn't at the moment.
Yeah.
So then we put in the actual date of the event. So this is the date. So this is the last day of the year, this one. And it's going to start at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's just for information. We don't actually use that at the moment. The more important one is the entry opening date. So you can set up a date, say for a Friday evening, 7 o'clock, simply there, and then you can sit back and you'll know that at 7 o'clock entries are live and anyone can go in and enter themselves. Then we've got the settings for the actual event. So in this case, we've got a 5-second penalty for cone, a 5-second for a line. Some people use 10 seconds maybe. So double penalty for a line. You've got the default wrong test penalty, which is calculated on the fastest run for that test for that class, plus whatever penalty you've got there. So in this case, 30 seconds. That also applies for a no run and a maximum as well. And then we got the number of tests we want to set up. So in this case, we're going to have 6 tests on this event, and we're going to have 3 runs for this event. If we want to drop the worst run, we simply enter 1 in there, and then we've got the best 2 out of 3 runs calculated. These can all be changed during the event if they're set up incorrectly at the start, and it instantly changes the results on the fly.
One of the things I'd throw in here that event organisers need to have some idea of the length of run that the test may take, and they should have an overview of what the customers are who are coming to the event, because if the test is only got a 20-second maximum, like the Blue Book actually has it on its table, when you get a lot of novice drivers, they may never see their own time. So these penalties, you've got to plan it beforehand. You might want people not to hit cones. So you might put people on a 15-second penalty for hitting a cone, because you don't want to waste time having to put the cones back in place, particularly if you've got 2 cars running the test at the same time. The second one could be disadvantaged. So those are the things you've got to set up beforehand and think about it as the event organizer. But thank you, John.
No problem. We've also got a minimum and maximum time. These are generally used targets, but they also apply to auto test, auto solo. In this case, I've set it up to 1 second, simply because a lot of our test data that we did at the last webinar, some of the runs are only sort of 5-10 seconds long because people were just experimenting with the app. But normally you might have that set to say 15-20 seconds as a minimum, so that anyone who just literally drove onto the course, drove straight off, they get the minimum time plus the default wrong test. And there's also a maximum time that again applies more to targets, but as long as you set it high enough, it won't come into effect. But you've got to bear in mind that if you're the only one in that class, and you do more than 1 wrong test, you may end up with a maximum time. So it does come into effect then.
Yeah, I've had that on an event where I had 1 person in class, and it happened.
Yeah.
They brought the car on just doing over half the tests. So again, the admin had to go into the system and put the maximum time in for them, because the system could not calculate it.
Yeah.
No system could calculate that anyway. It's one of those that would have to be put in on an Excel spreadsheet or whatever by an admin anyway. So there's no difference in that whatsoever.
Correct, yeah. So we've also got precision here. So we generally time to the 10th of a second, so defaults to that. But we can, with the timing beams, go to a higher precision if needed. You can also put in the entry fee and take payments via PayPal. So simply enter the amounts, pounds or euros, and an email address. And we can also set up the maximum number. So in Steve's case, it was 52 entries. Once they get to the 52 and it goes beyond that, any entries get an email saying they're now on the reserve list. And then we can bump them up to a full entry if someone drops out. We've then got 4 different types of leaderboards. You can have them in any order you like. The defaults are showing the detailed one first. You may not want to show the others. You may want to only show the detailed one, or you can show all 4. Sorry. So you've got minimum, which just shows the minimum details. Overall, ignores class, so it'll only show the overall results. And then we've also got subtotals, which will show a subtotal after every test. You've
John,
also got, sorry?
John, we've got a couple of questions in. If you
Okay.
want to just interrupt there. So we've got one. If the wrong test penalty is set to a greater time than the maximum, would I be right in assuming that the maximum time will apply and not the actual time plus wrong time penalty?
Yeah, the maximum would come into effect, yes. Yeah.
And then we've got a question about the payment methods. Are other payment methods available, Stripe, etc., or is it just PayPal at the moment?
It's just PayPal at the moment. I've been looking at Stripe. It's very, very complex. Even the guys at Stripe couldn't help me for a while. So I put it on the back burner because I had so many other.
One of the system that our clubs have used or are using as well, we do all the payments by backs. Everybody enters the event via the Sapphire Solutions, and the regulations give them the account sort code and the details. They enter via backs, and we say that it's the payment by backs is the order of entries who are accepted. So the club just then does a reconciliation between the bank statement and this system and puts them to pay by backs. That is a confirmed entry then, once we've got the money. And that's how we're doing it as a club. And it's very simple to do, and it doesn't cost the club anything to do it that way.
Yeah, okay.
So we have another question.
Okay.
If the actual time is less than the bogey time, which we set for 30 seconds, does it automatically insert the bogey time?
It will
Gosh,
do.
30 seconds, don't know. It'll automatically go to the bogey time, I think. Yes.
Yeah, they need to set the minimum time, the bogey time, to 15 seconds if they weren't going to run a 20-second test. This is where you need to have an idea what your test times are going to be. Again, you can alter that bogey time during the event, and it'll correct any issues you have. You can enter that as an admin. You can amend it whilst the event's on, because it makes no effect on the penalties of the motorsport event. Does the maximum on an auto test and an auto solo, it makes no effect. So you can admins can amend that during the running of the event if there's any errors happening.
Yeah. Okay. So carrying on, you can also put in some sponsor links and logos for the live results screen, which we'll show later. That's more of a rolling leaderboard screen that you display on a laptop or a tablet at an event. It doesn't appear on the export results. You can also add an organizer's email address for each event. So if you've got different organizers for each event, as we have at our local club, you can put that individual's email address in there, and all the emails sent out and replies will go to that individual rather than the site admin. And there's also a box for extra information there. You can put in some extra notes about the event. And then once I'm finished, I click update. So that's the basic event setup. But after that, we can also add our documentation. This is a new feature I've just added, whereby we can add the signing on declarations for the competitor and official and our regulations. And you can do that for each individual event now rather than a global setting. And just to show you that in action, they appear at the top there, so people can just click on the PDFs and view them instantly. After that, we've got some extra settings. So we've got different event types that will appear here. I've set up 4 defaults for most accounts when they're from a new account. As standard, if you just want to use the same as the event settings for all event types, then just leave these all as zeros. If you've got 2 different types of event running on the same day, but they have different penalties or different wrong test settings, it may be that you run a PCA for the juniors and they'll have a higher wrong test penalty seconds. You can do individual settings here. These will override the defaults from the event. Otherwise, just leave them as all zeros.
We've had a couple of questions about targets and whether, so if you're using it for a target rally, can the bogey be set for individual tests?
No, it's an overall setting at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you can set it for different types, as you can see here, but not different types of event, but not for different tests themselves. Yeah.
Great. Great. I think those two questions were the same, so that's fine. Thank you.
The next one down is test settings. This is where we can actually you can set the bogey time maximum for tests. I didn't know I'd added that. Sorry. This is where you can actually change each test to your requirements. This typically happens if you're running 3 runs during the day, but decide you're running out of time and you're just going to do 2 runs for the last couple of tests on that day. So
also the thing that we've started to do is that the first 2 driving sessions, competitors are allowed to drop the worst score. On the 3rd driving session, every score counts, and we amend it on that one by test A, B, and C as 3 separate tests. And test A and B drop the worst score, whereas test C doesn't drop any scores. And that way it works so that it's to give the newcomers the chance to make a mistake and not be unduly affected on the first 2 runs. And then the last run, everything counts. So we've used that system and it worked very well. The only thing is we had to do it across all the different permitted events we were running that day.
Yeah. So I'm just setting up an example which you're speaking. So in this example, I've got test A, B, and C, and you've got 3 runs dropping 1 for the first 2. And then the 3rd one, I'm just doing 2 runs that both count.
And if you're looking at the bogies there, I was just thinking for the Targa people, if the test is a lot longer, they can then set that maximum as a longer time, can't they?
Yeah. So you could set the minimum up as 20 and the max up as 5 minutes. So yes, it can be done by test. I've forgotten I've done that, sorry.
Yeah, we are supposed to be concentrating on auto solo and auto test, but this is very useful for Targas as well.
Yeah. So that's the odd settings. I will delete those now because I just want to go back to the standard. Well, actually leave them there for now. But normally I'll just go back to the standard event settings to save confusion. You've also got different classes. You can set these up. You can use any name. So you could say class A up to 1300 PCs, etc. You can add new ones. So we've got class G, you can put one in there. You've also got the different championships. So I've got 2 in there at the moment. These appear on the registration form as a drop-down list. So put other in there, create that one. If I just quickly show that on the registration screen, you can see there's 3 there. And these are a multi-select, so if you press Control, you can do multiple select. And if you want to get rid of them all, you can just press Control on the one that's highlighted and it will go to unselected.
Our first event we ran in April this year, we had the East Midland Association Motor Clubs Auto Solo Championship, ANWCC Auto Solo Championship, as well as the SD34 and BTRDA. So we had a big list in there and people could pick 1, 2 or all 4 of them if they were.
Okay. You then got the different skill levels. Again, you can add new ones if you want. I've got the usual beginner, novice, and expert. And then you've got different award types, because there is a built-in award system typically for auto test, auto solo, whereby you have the fastest time of day, first in class, second class, third in class, etc. Best expert, best lady, best junior. And these are the award types that are calculated automatically. And it calculates these based on the minimum number of entries for that award. So if I say I've got to have at least 7 entries for award fastest time of the day, if I've got 6, it won't award that. If I've got 7 or more, it will award that. And the same with first in class, I've got to have at least 3. Second in class, I've got to have at least 5. So we'll use those bases. and they can be calculated on the event operation screen by simply calculating awards or clearing them if you want to get rid of them. You can add extra ones as well. So if you've got a club specific award, so best local or whatever entry, minimum number 1 maybe, or 3, or whatever. You can assign it as other award, and it's assigned manually. So I create that one, and then after the event, in event operation, I can actually allocate that myself. So let's find someone about him. I can actually go down there and select an award as best local entry, and that will appear in the awards, and that will show on the results once we've finished.
That event operations screen there, John, I think it'd be worth just mentioning that that is every entry on this demonstration event that you've just flicked to, because people could be totally lost on the screen that you've just gone to and you're working on there for the event operation.
Yeah, sure.
This is your registered entries for your event there, that screen, isn't it?
Yeah, but this is actually
you can filter it at the top, can't you, for the event?
You can, yes. I'll show that on the actual entry management rather than, because this is like during the event, so
yeah,
we're showing class and things like that. But one last thing on the event setup is leaderboard names, and that's simply that you can rename those, so you can edit them and call them whatever you like. So you can, whatever it shows on the app will show as that name. Okay. I think the next thing we planned to show was the actual entry screens themselves.
Okay, shall we just have a couple of questions on setup? So one person has asked, Julie has asked, just to confirm that local entry award has to be done manually.
Yes, it has to be done manually. Yes. Yeah, the automatic calculations work on things like the fastest time of day and the first and second, third in class. They're easy to work out, but the other criteria, I haven't got the information, so you just literally allocate that after the event manually.
That's fine. David asks, is there a facility to have more than one entry fee?
There isn't at the moment. That is my list of things I want to do there. Yeah.
Again, that could be quite possible if you're doing your payment by backs. You can tell them what the entry fee is, and they pay by backs, and then you as the club know which entry what they paid, because you know. Yeah,
that normally be shown in the regs anyway. So it's only really, I guess, for the PayPal that you need more than one thing. Yeah.
And then someone has asked about Marshall signing on.
I shall show that in a second.
Okay.
So that's the event setup. So we've now created an event. We're ready now to take entries once the entry date is reached. And what we do is we email out the link for that event. So you could have multiple events here. And for our demonstration event, if I click on that link there, that takes me to the registration screen and pre-fills it in the event of the two that we've got there. It doesn't pre-fill the event type unless you've only got one type. So if I was to delete all the other types, that would pre-fill with just the one that was left. But you can add the extra setting in here by simply typing type equals auto test, and that will hopefully, there we go, pre-fills to auto test. So there will be later an automatic way of doing that, but you can just add that extra bit to the URL to get that to pre-fill. And then all you do is copy that URL and email that out to your competitors. They click on it, come into here, they can see their regs. So if I just click on the regs, it will show those, hopefully. There we go. And it'll show the signing on with the permit number and dates already pre-filled and uploaded for that event.
And again, because that form's there and that should be the latest one that's been published by Motorsport UK, all the same details are on this entry registration form. There is no need to send the other form in as well as this form. It's all the same details on the information, so you can capture the data once.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to now register myself for this event. Number. I'm not in any championship. Boundless number. Next to Ken and concept number. I'm entering the auto solo, so I'll change that to auto solo. So no need for passenger. But if I was a junior, I could put in the parent guardian details here instead.
And of course, if you're a junior without a driving license, that would have to be a Road Traffic Act passenger in the car, because if the driver doesn't have a Road Traffic Act license, they have to have somebody alongside them experienced in the sport and hold a Motorsport UK license as well as a Road Traffic Act license.
I'm just filling in some extra details here. So car, colour, CCs, vehicle reg. I will add in turbo or forced induction as a flag there, just so you can check you're in the right class. And there's also now an extra box there if you want to put some notes in here.
Useful for car sharing when you get people using the same car.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then we've got on, sorry?
Subject to COVID regulations, of course.
Yeah.
We've just had David wanting to clarify that the entry registration should be completed by the participants, which, yes, because they are agreeing to the regulations.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely should be completed by the participants. Yes.
And just to point out, we've got the standard text from the Blue Book up there. And we have the confirmation down here that you're entering, that you're agreeing to that pre-event
declaration form. So that has to be filled in by the entrant of the event.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure you can all guess exactly what you have to type here. That's to stop our little robots from joining in our fun events, as we've got a few starting to creep in. And I must tick that to say I'm happy to confirm, because of GDPR, that the administrator of this system is happy. You're happy for them to have those details that you've entered here, and obviously they won't be used for anything else other than this event. And when we're ready, I can click register entry, and I'm accepted as a reserve because we've already got 60 odd people on this event. And there's my entry. And if I had the PayPal set up, the PayPal link appears there, so I can click PayPal. Now, normally I wouldn't be logged in as admin, and if I was to log out now quickly and show you what you'd normally see, you would only see basic details. So you'd only see who's entered, club, car, nothing, no personal information. But because I'm logged in as an administrator, I will see more details, things like email, phone numbers and things like that. I can then edit that and give each entry an entry number. So I'm going to be number 60. And because I've just increased the number of entries I can allow, I'm now going to say entry accepted but not yet paid. If I pay by PayPal automatically, that would change to pay by PayPal. But if I was taking the backs payment, check or cash, the administrator could then flag that as paid by banks. You can also do the scrutineering on here as well if you want to keep a record of that.
Again, when you're talking about scrutineering, this has a very, if you go back to the top of the screen, John, it has a very powerful thing for organisers, because you do have a check MOT and tax button on here, so that once you've got your event sorted out with all your entries and everything, you run that system and it tells you whether all the vehicles, particularly for an auto solo with the tax and tested vehicles, it tells you the status of the MOT and the road tax on each vehicle, making your scrutineer's job significantly easier.
Yeah, that's true.
So I just want to clarify, we've had a couple of questions, so
yeah,
I'm back to step a little bit here, but Christopher's asked for clarification that if the participant fills out the Sapphire Solutions entry form, that they're also signed on in a Motorsport UK purposes, so filling out declaration. And yes, this is signing on. The registration and signing it on it is absolutely fine, or because you can download the exactly who has signed on, and that
all the data is captured is identical to what it would be if they were signing the pre-event declaration form. And the club that I'm with was just done 3 events in 3 months, but each event was a separate entry field, and they signed on for each event separately and submitted the details separately, so they're all on separate data captures. Yes. It wasn't one sign on for all 3, it was separate events and sign-ons for each one.
Exactly, yes. So people have to sign on separately for each event, not just at the start of the championship. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Again, Motorsport UK have a habit to keep changing the sign-on declaration form, so we're struggling to keep up with that, and we're also struggling to get told when they've changed it. But unfortunately, this is just a changing times we're in. But final instructions on the event that we send out say that they have to comply with the latest pre-event declaration forms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
so it's important.
Form often has to change with COVID regulations, but
we're in a very fluid time.
Exactly. You'll always find the most up to date on our website if you're
correct,
or if you've got them.
It is up to the club administrator to make sure these documents are correct in the latest version and uploaded into the right place here.
Yeah,
I've had to double work twice in the last 3 months because of changes and updates, just as I was about to issue the regulations.
Yeah. So when you upload these, you simply select the right one and it will appear on the right. So that's for entry and that's for the marshals. Okay. So that's the registered entries, and that's our current list. That was the 60 odd people that registered for our event, the last demo. The only other thing on there, at the end of the event or during the event, someone may either not start or may retire, and you can change their status there. That will then, it won't take them out of the results, but it'll put them at the bottom of the results and show them as a non-starter or retired. Okay.
And again, that's very important that if you do have a non-starter that hasn't turned up at the event, they need to be listed on there as a non-starter, changed from being active to a non-starter. Whilst they've been registered to the event and they've technically signed on for that event, if they haven't attended the event, then there isn't a permit fee needs to be paid for those people. It's only if they start event the permit fee becomes payable. But that's for auto tests and auto solos.
Yeah.
So I've just had a question about uploading documents. Are they PDF or Word documents that you do?
Yes, so I just tried to answer that, but I couldn't do it. But yes, it can be a PDF or Word. It can be a .doc or .docx document, all those. But I prefer PDFs because you just click on them and they they appear. So
yeah, the word downloads, I made a mistake of putting Word on there, so
yeah,
it's better as PDF.
PDF's nicer. and the downloaded PDFs work really well. So okay. So last things on there, you've got 3 buttons at the top there. One that Steve already mentioned, check MOT and tax. That goes off to the gov.uk site.
Yeah.
And rattles through each of these. It takes a second to do each one because they don't like to be swamped with requests, but it will rattle through them in live status, and it will show whether they're valid, taxed. Sometimes it will say no results returned. That could mean that it's such an old car that it doesn't need an MOT. If there's no data, it's probably just an invalid registration.
Also, it happens if it's under 3-year-old, it won't need an MOT.
That's true, yeah.
Can I just clarify something? There's a clarification of signing on. The signing on process for auto tests and auto solos using this system is when you register your entry and agree to the terms and conditions and press submit, you've submitted the agreement to the pre-event declaration form. That is signing on for this event in an auto test and auto solo. And I think the other disciplines will accept that the same. That's probably one for Simon, but this is to do away with any paperwork at the event itself, so you don't have to double work it. By submitting this form, you've agreed, just as you would do if you'd have signed on the dotted line like we were doing 18 months ago. But this system will supersede that now.
But it is important that the clubs keep records for 7 years of the entries.
Yes.
And the best way of doing that is using the CSV export, which will export all this information, including whether they've retired or not started. And you can also export the results if you want to. But if you keep that export for 7 years, then we know exactly who entered and all their details.
Again, I would say to a motor club, you might want to have 2 people as your administrators who keep that information. So if you ever have a recall to look at it, you've got 2 people who know about where it is and everything. Because if there's an incident happens or an incident that you're not aware of and they come back 5 years later, you might need all this information, and this is your record.
I do also keep there's a nightly backup of all the databases, and I keep once a month. I keep one every month for forever, if you like, and I'll sort of delete the daily ones every couple of months. So we can go back usually and find all these events if needed. So that's the registered entries. You can also import the entries. You can simply download the CSV or Excel sample files, and as long as you keep the data in the right columns, in the right format, then you simply pick that file and import them straight into whichever event you want to pick.
I can chuck a 2 pennyworth in on this one, John.
Yeah.
For September last year, we actually captured all our data for the event on Jot forms and did everything on Jot forms originally. And I exported or imported the Excel spreadsheet into this system to use for the timing and everything for the September event last year, and found it quite an easy system to use, but realised, why are we double working when this system does everything? Why we're collecting entries on a Jot form? Because the beauty of using this system, it all marries together and it makes it so much easier for the event management tool.
Yeah, exactly. This has kind of been superseded by the API that I've also built that other entry systems can use. Alpha Timing and another one they're looking at it at the moment. Once they've built it in, you can use their entry systems and it will populate the entries into this and extract the results at the end of the day. So that would be another option. But again, for simple management, this does the job. If you're using PayPal, you can see the transactions come back from the PayPal. So someone's paid me £40 at some point. No, I don't think. I think that's fictitious data.
There's a question. There's a question coming from Wenner Roberts about using this for the declaration form. And I have to say that if you read the declaration form, it does actually say that it's your responsibility. If there's any changes from when you signed it, you don't go to the event. And the final instructions for the event repeat that information that I run, that if you've had any contact with COVID and you're not able to come to the event, it's your responsibility not to come to the event. And when you sign on submitting this form, the pre-event declaration form does actually say it's your responsibility not to attend the event if you've been in contact with somebody with COVID.
Okay, and onto the Marshall registration form. So a much simpler version. Again, you've got the regs up there, and you've got the official signing on document there. You don't need the Marshall registration number if you don't know it. It's optional. Again, email address, next of kin's contact number, and then you can select a role. So it could just be simply a timekeeper or a COVID officer or whatever. So you've got a few options there. Again, we've got the general notes. Again, we've got the MSUK. And again, we have to confirm for GDPR. And I've now registered myself as a marshal, as Fred Smith. And again, because I'm logged in, I see all the details. Yep. The only other option you can do on there, if I edit that, is I can also assign a control or a location to that marshal. So they could be marshal control A.
It would be nice if you are a registered marshal to actually put your registered marshal registration number in, but just remember, for Autotest Auto Solos, 90% of the people who turn up and marshal and run the events won't even be registered as a marshal with Motorsport UK, because there's no requirement whatsoever for it. And in all honesty, the people who come along, in many cases, very few of them, in some cases, are computer literate on some of them. So we will be excluding some of these people if we're having to make them be registered.
Going back to the registered entries again, something Steve mentioned earlier, I've got to show. We've also got filters at the top here, so rather than just showing a huge list, I can actually filter down on age, gender, class. So look at Class D in this case. I've got all the entries for that. Class E.
If you want a small entry, you could filter it on the Lynn Blackburn demo event as well.
Yeah, that's true. I can also look at the skill levels within Class D. So that's all the novices, that's all the beginners, that's all the experts. And I can look at who's got the awards. I can look at gender. I don't know how many females we had sign up for our previous demo, but no, obviously none. Or I can just go straight to OneDriver and look at straight at their data. So what pinned on one. Here's some of the other filters. So yeah, so just go straight to that driver.
The beauty of now, you can go into that registered entry, and if they've made a mistake, you can go into it and you can put them in the right class if they've entered it in the wrong class, and little things like that. It makes it very powerful and useful for event organizers. We had it where people withdrew from one event, so we went into this and put, because they've withdrawn and had problems before the event started, but wanted to enter the next event, we just moved them on to the next event. They wanted to pay for the next event and do the next event. So it does give you the opportunity of moving data around for the competitors if they want to do it.
So I can move myself to the limb event, and I'm now in the limb event. Okay, so that's pretty much all the setup information. You can recap all that on the app guide and the admin guide. There's also a version history which I keep updated, which shows you the latest version of the app and what I've recently changed. I'm also starting to build an FAQ section on what new features or what common questions get asked.
In fact, some of the questions from this webinar might be useful to go in there, actually.
Absolutely, yeah, I probably will do, actually. That's a good idea, yeah. You can also edit your account details here as well. So I've edited that. You can change the name of your club if you spelt it wrong or whatever when you first signed up. You can change the app passcode. You can change that each event so that marshals who are now competitors on the next event don't know the marshal code anymore. The input code there is just for the new API linking up to other input systems, and obviously your contact details. The reg and marshal document there, they're going to be taken out later because we can now.
You've put them into event setup, haven't you now?
Yeah, so they'll be deleted at some point, but I'm leaving them there for the time being because people are still using them at the moment. You can also upload documents actually into this list here. So if you've got club documents, you know, it could be a newsletter, it could be just general information about the club, the secretary, who, you know, who's running what. You can upload a document there. Again, it can be a PDF, well, just a PDF in this case, and it'll appear on this list, and you just click on it, and
that could be useful for uploading your event test diagrams and things like that for people to take. You could put that information on here so that the organizer doesn't have to then email it out to everybody.
Or you could put it here. You could put it in there as well, because there is an other option on there. So you could add it to there, and that will appear in the registered entry form.
Again, if you go to your event management again, John, for the entries, for the entry list, you've got your BCC in here. And that is a very powerful tool. If you do you want to change the event? Oh, that's anyone. If you click BCC now on there, you get a box up, and it gives you all the email addresses of everybody in your event, so that you can email out all those people as a BCC, so you can send all the documents to them, and it saves you having to create the event file for all the email lists. So it's very, very helpful as a management tool for an event organizer. I've been learning and saving myself hours of work once I've learned the system.
I'm also looking to add a button on there as well that will send them out for you as well, so you can do it automatically, and have a little text box and things, but that's in the future. So you can also look at other car clubs. It gives you a big list, and you can look at their live results and things like that. You can also do that on the app, of course. And then during the event, obviously you've got the event operation, which I showed earlier for calculating and clearing rewards. But you've also got a full list of the data that's sent up from the app. So this is, if I clear the filter there, this is all the runs that were recorded during our last webinar. And we've got the time of each run, how many penalties, cones, how many lines, whether it was a wrong test, and the actual date and time that was recorded. So some are done afterwards, I think, but most of them are done on the 28th.
Again, this is very powerful, John, because at our last event, there was some debate whether a competitor had a wrong test or not. So the timekeeper allocated the wrong test to the competitor, but said, we're giving you a wrong test, but you get your time still in the system. And with subsequent debate afterwards, the wrong test wasn't actually applied. So all it had to do was take the tick out of the box, because the time for the test is fully recorded, and it had the tick for wrong test. So to actually correct it, all we had to do was just take the tick out of the box. The marshal had incorrectly signaled the wrong test because the competitor completed the course correctly after realizing his mistake, going back to the point of error, and then carrying on with the test. So again, it was no fault of anybody's, but it was created afterwards, corrected without any issues afterwards. So that was very good.
That's good. The other thing that can happen is if you've got double drive, sometimes the marshal might pick the wrong driver if they've forgotten to swap the numbers over or whatever. So in this case, we had one here, John Holiday, and it was actually supposed to be Jim Allen. I can simply go in there, edit that one, change him to Jim Allen. Looking at the other runs, you know, what run it was, it might have been run 3 in this case, and update that. And then hopefully we've got 3 Jim Allens there. I sort my driver. Yeah, so we got 3 Jim Allens there, runs 1, 2, and 3 on test day. So now allocated to that. So mistakes can be easily corrected. We've also got an archive feature. So after the event, we can pick the event details and we can archive it. All that does is simply create a web page of all the results, and you can view those. It doesn't save all the data, it just saves the results as a web page. It's handy if you wanted to link that to your own club site. But other than that, it's just a backup really. It doesn't actually back the data up. So you can also remove an event as well. So you can pick an event, finish it, and then remove it if you want to clear up the database later on. But I'd say again, we archive all the data anyway. So if we need to go back, I could probably pull it out the archive if needed. And then we got the live results and export results. So these are the final 2 screens. Live results is basically what's shown on the app. So it's in this case, it's a scrolling screen. So after around about 40 seconds or so, it will start to scroll to the next page. And depending on which one you've got, depending on which order, there you go. So it starts scrolling. And that can be a bit annoying if you're trying to look at all your times. So quite often I recommend that you use the export results screen, which doesn't scroll. And you can scroll up and down using the browser instead. So that's actually a little bit easier for organisers to look at results. So we can see here we've got the auto solo class A first. We've got best beginner, first in class, all the awards down the side there. And then after the class A, we've got class B. And we've got class C, D, E, and F, a couple of Fs there. And from here, we can also print these. We can email them out at the end of the event, or we can export them to a CSV file format. You can use Excel. I can flick between the different ones here. So it shows the minimum, so it's just simple data, just the overall positions and the overall time. The overall sort's not by class, so it just goes by the fastest time. So in this case, Paul was the fastest on the day. And subtotal ones shows a subtotal after every test. So there was multiple tests there, you see a subtotal as you're going along. And you can also look at other events that have taken place only up to about a week ago. It deletes them after a week off this list, apart from your own local events.
It deletes them off that list, but you've still got them on your system.
It's still on your it's still on your club accounts, so you can look at them yourself. But for everyone to look at them, they have to go to your site to look at the older results. But because this is the list that shows on the app, we don't want to show too many older ones. So show them for about a week so people can go back in and have a quick look at how they did last week. So
again, this is very useful for people who are interested in the sport and might not be able to make the event. We've had people watching the events that we've been running who haven't been able to get there, and they've been texting the competitors when they've been making mistakes and things have been going on, what's going on and why have you had, and things like that. And I actually watched an event last weekend that was taking place where I couldn't attend it, but I actually watched the results coming through on the app, and it's really quite a useful information tool for the sport as well.
Yeah, this one was one we did on Sunday, was with the Loughborough group. They did a Easy Larity, which had 3 road sections using the Rally app and 3 tests in the fields, and they combined the 2 results. It's still showing provisional because they give 7 days to do the combined results, because they couldn't do it on the day because it was chucking down rain and everyone wanted to go home, I think. So yeah, so you can see all the results on here. They had 2 groups, expert and modern expert. And you can see 2 retirees as well.
And that's again is a good addition to the system now, is that retiree position, because we had an issue. We had to go to 7 days because we had 5 retirees who hadn't completed half the event, so consequently they couldn't be classified as finishers. So the system has been evolved when we've found there's been glitches in it, and I believe the system is not perfect, but it's getting a lot closer to being perfect. I don't think it'll ever be perfect, but nothing ever is. But it's a very usable system, and it covers 90%, 95% plus of what we need it to cover at this moment in time. And you've got to have the admin to do a little bit that it doesn't cover.
Yeah. Now, I can't believe this, but we managed to do that in 1 hour.
Well, that was a plan for it, and we were used to running time scheduled events. We only went into lateness by 2 minutes.
I can't believe that. That's amazing. So there we go. Open to questions.
Right, well,
we're not covering 12-car road rallies, correct?
No, no. This is TimingAppLive. We also have Rally App Live and Trials App Live, and we're planning to do Rally App Live on the, remind me, Claire?
Well, we've penciled a date in. We'll share that date
Okay.
soon, I think.
In due course.
Yes, it'll be in June. In June, that's what we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should mention one of the final thing. This is currently donationware. Suggested donations of between £1 and £2 per entry. It will be formalised as around about that price later in the year, once I've got some sort of tracking mechanisms and things in there to do sort of automatic billing post event. So you run an event, you're happy with it, you get an invoice and pay, and that will be VAT registered, etc.
Yeah, I have to say that I believe to use the entry system and the results system as a club, the amount of time it can save the organising team and to bring everything together under one event management tool, I think the £2 a car donation is a very fair price for the amount of time it saves the volunteer organisers in the clubs and everything else. And it's just another event cost that you put to it, like the same cost as replacing your cones when your drivers run over them and things like that. It's just an event cost.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, John. Thank you, Steve. This is just one great app and resource that is out there for clubs. There are others out there. Motorsport UK don't favour one over others. So you would have seen in Club News, we also put a piece about Rally Score. There's Rally Info. There's lots of different ones out there. So yeah, check out, find out what's going to be best for your club. And thank you for joining us tonight. We're getting some comments in about clubs that are using this for the last year and saying how easy it is to use, and some great thank yous as well. So
well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And as I said, please do fill out that feedback survey, because we'd love to hear from you of what you'd like to hear from us next. So thank you very much.